Tonight, Cyclone Alfred spoils opening round. Both Queensland matches postponed. We're live to the AFL season launch for the latest.
An emergency unfolding in Moorabbin. Flames rip through a smash repair workshop.
Teens arrested over a sickening attack on a Bendigo security guard. Shoppers forced to intervene.
Safety improvement or nanny state madness? A plan for 30k speed zones divides opinion.
Donald Trump halts military aid to Ukraine as our PM reveals he's open to sending Australian troops into the war zone.
And man versus nature, the Frankston homeowner building a retaining wall on the beach.
This is Melbourne's 9 News with Alicia Loxley and Tom Steinfort.
Good evening. The AFL has made the extraordinary decision to postpone 2 opening round matches with a cyclone headed directly for Brisbane.
Faced with a possible disaster, the league had little choice 2 days before the first bounce. Tony Jones is at its season launch at Sydney's Luna Park tonight. Tony, the AFL is not taking any risks.
No, that's right, and it's very much a risk versus reward, isn't it? And so often the AFL, I suppose, is damned if they do, damned if they don't. But the message on this occasion from just about everyone was do not play those matches in Queensland because of what the Queenslanders, particularly from the Sunshine Coast down to the Gold Coast, Brisbane, smack bang in the path of Alfred, will be experiencing over the next few days. It just wasn't going to be possible at all. So all the advice was postpone those matches. It wasn't an easy decision for the AFL to make, but as Andrew Dillon knows only too well, it was the only decision.
It was a tough decision, but in the end, we didn't have any alternative, and want to, call out to the Players Association and the 4 clubs involved. It was just an accumulation of the information, and when the Premier got up and spoke today, with the calls that he's made there, it made it clear to us that there was no other alternative than to look at rescheduling the games.
So Gather Round was going to look like this, the 4 matches, so you can put a line through those 2 in Queensland. Tom Morris, our chief football reporter, joins me now live. And Tom, in terms of rescheduling, do we know when they'll be rescheduled?
Look, it's highly likely, Tony, that Brisbane versus Geelong will be played in round 3. That's easy because those 2 teams had a bye in round 3. Gold Coast Essendon is complicated. It will be later in the year. The AFL is determined that it doesn't affect too many other teams. They've got to find a slot, and the backstop is playing it after round 24 before the finals in that bye weekend. They'll find a spot in the next couple of weeks, but it's not easy, and the fixture team are working overtime. OK,
and the reason that those matches couldn't be played in Melbourne, as Andrew Dillon said, you don't want to be taking players away from their families. They're sandbagging. While we're here at Luna Park, the champagne's flowing, the hors d'oeuvres are being passed around, there's families in Queensland from the Brisbane Lions who are sandbagging. So you'll have more news for us a little later on in sport?
Yeah, I will. And both clubs and everyone involved in this has agreed with the AFL's decision. So there is uniformity in the AFL's decision-making on this occasion.
All right, we'll check in with you a little later on in sport.
All right, good stuff, Tony. We'll talk to you then. Well, Cyclone Alfred is tonight barrelling towards Australia's east coast, where 4 million people lie in the destructive path.
The superstorm is expected to make landfall on Thursday, but before it does, residents in Brisbane down to northern New South Wales are stripping supermarket shelves and scrambling to find sandbags. More from Claire Todd-Hunter.
After waiting for hours, a panicked scurry for sandbags.
Ladies first, please. Ladies first.
Tens of thousands collected from Brisbane depots within hours in preparation for what's to come. The latest modelling shows Cyclone Alfred slamming into the coastline between Noosa and Brisbane, the most densely populated part of the state, as a Category 2 system, hitting late Thursday night, possibly Friday morning.
It's a really rare event for southeast Queensland, but it is serious and it is happening, and we want Queenslanders to be prepared.
Isolated falls of up to 700 millimetres across 3 days are possible, combining with a tidal surge, only adding to the problems.
Where we will see this impact at its greatest is on the highest tide for the day.
Councils are preparing for major flooding. On the Gold Coast, Council's worst-case scenario modelling leaves more than 6,000 homes flooded.
The worst time to make the decision to leave is when we're in the middle of the event.
250,000 sandbags are being dispatched from interstate to help, but sandbags simply won't cut it for some. Heavy machinery is mobilising in Caloundra in a last-ditch bid to save waterfront buildings.
Where we're standing now, I'm sure, is going to get water through here.
Electricity supply could be lost, potentially for days. Authorities are warning it's a race against time to protect properties from a potential tidal surge. By Thursday afternoon, it could be too late. Island residents across Moreton Bay are currently directly in the firing line.
They will be the first Queenslanders to experience this event.
I'm evacuating the island because we're working out there and it looks like we're going to lose power.
Shaken passengers from the Pacific Encounter cruise ship are happy to finally disembark after successfully docking at dawn.
Good food, good staff, but yeah, very, very sick.
Waves as large as 7 metres have been recorded off the coast. Those daring enough to enter the surf to take advantage of the rare swells coming off second best. Even one of the world's best surfers, Mick Fanning, learning the full force of cyclonic conditions. Claire Todd-Hunter, 9 News.
To breaking news now, and firefighters are battling a huge blaze that broke out at a smash repair shop in Moorabbin. Julia Passarelli is there, and Julia, a community warning is in place for that area.
It is, Tom. The warning was issued for large amounts of smoke in the area as a result of this fire, which firefighters have managed to bring under control in the last half hour. They were called here just after 4:30 this afternoon to find the building engulfed in flames. Witnesses have told me they heard multiple explosions and the building went up within a matter of minutes. It took 60 firefighters around an hour to bring the blaze under control, and they battled it from the ground and the air. Thankfully, no injuries have been reported and the cause is still being investigated. Tom.
OK, Julia, thank you. 4 teenagers have been arrested after a young security guard was viciously bashed at a Bendigo shopping centre. As Isabel Quinlan reports, the attack unfolded in front of dozens of terrified shoppers and sent the busy complex into lockdown.
Outnumbered 3 to 1. This young security guard is punched, kicked and dragged to the ground before being stomped on several times. Bystanders tried to intervene, but they soon become the new target of this gang's vicious assault. These barbaric scenes sent a Bendigo shopping centre into lockdown.
Some of my colleagues, they feel like really terrible. We feeling scared to come at the job.
Is Bendigo becoming the Alice Springs of Victoria?
Police say it all erupted after the guard had asked the group to leave because they were being rowdy, playing loud music and drinking alcohol.
I would be very disappointed if it was my kids involved in that type of behaviour.
Shortly after the attack, the teens fled while the 20-year-old guard was treated for minor injuries. Police have since caught up with 4 of the 9 alleged offenders, a 17-year-old boy and 3 girls, aged between 14 and 17. They're currently being questioned by police, but it's likely they'll be charged with a string of offences, including a fray.
Rest assured, we have all available resources assisting us.
The shopping centre says it'll be increasing security presence, police vowing to do the same.
Because at the end of the day, we want our community to feel safe.
In Bendigo, Isabel Quinlan, 9 News.
Prosecutors will appeal what they say is a manifestly inadequate prison term handed to a man who killed 5 people and a dog in one of Victoria's deadliest crashes. In January, Christopher Ioannidis was jailed in the county court for 5.5 years after that smash at Strathmerton in 2023 and could walk free on parole in less than 3 years. Police had warned him minutes before the tragedy about the dangerous roads in the area.
Donald Trump has suspended all military aid to Ukraine, effective immediately, in the wake of his dust-up with Volodymyr Zelensky. Here, our Prime Minister has revealed he's open to sending peacekeeping troops into the war-torn country. Reid Butler reports.
A blow-up in the Oval Office now extending to the battlefield.
The United States is pausing all U.S. military aid to Ukraine.
The Trump administration suspending crucial aid until Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky comes back to the table on peace negotiations with Russia. That's worth more than $1.6 billion in US arms and ammunition that had been in the pipeline.
Well, I just think he should be more appreciative because this country has stuck with them through thick and thin.
And now this comment by Ukraine's president has added fuel to the fire. An agreement to end the war is still very, very far away, as Zelensky said as he left a meeting of European leaders yesterday. America will not put up with it for much longer. This guy doesn't want peace, Donald Trump posted.
If somebody doesn't want to make a deal, I think that person won't be around very long. That person will not be listened to very long because I believe that Russia wants to make a deal.
Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is backing Zelensky and hasn't ruled out a role in any peacekeeping mission.
Also, what they're fighting for is the international rule of law. Now, Australia stands ready to assist. If a request is made, then we would give consideration to it.
In terms of whether we should have boots on the ground in Ukraine, I don't support that. I think the Europeans have that task.
Those European leaders say a coalition of the willing could be a step to ending the war.
But to succeed, this effort must also have strong US backing.
France has suggested a one-month ceasefire leading to peace talks. A plan is to be presented to the US.
The suspension of military aid is an attempt from Donald Trump to force the Ukrainian president's hand, agree to a peace deal on America's terms, or else.
This is a real goad to Zelensky to get back over here and say he wants peace really, really bad.
Throwing money and ammunition at a terrible conflict, that is not a strategy. The only guy in town with a strategy is the President of the United States, and everybody needs to follow his lead.
The pause comes on the eve of the US president's first address to Congress since returning to office. A chance to push his case for a resolution. At the White House, Reid Butler, 9 News.
Peter Dutton says if he becomes Prime Minister, public servants will be banned from working from home. But the opposition leader is tonight being accused of stealing policies from US President Donald Trump. National Affairs Editor Andrew Probyn.
Canberra in the crosshairs.
People refusing to go back to work in Canberra is not acceptable.
Peter Dutton declaring war on work-from-home arrangements, suggesting public servants in the nation's capital are slacking off by not going to the office.
That is not going to happen under a government I lead.
The COVID-19 pandemic forced many Australians to work from home. It's become an entrenched part of flexible employment arrangements.
The problem is it has become a right that is creating an inefficiency.
36% of all workers regularly work from home, according to the Bureau of Statistics, down from 40% 3 years before. By comparison, 61% of public servants regularly work from home, which is more than it was during the pandemic.
It will be an expectation of a Dutton Liberal government that all members of the Australian Public Service work from the office 5 days a week.
Absolute rubbish. This is something that works across the country, and it allows people to join a public service where that opportunity might not have existed for them before.
Canberra bashing is something of a national sport, as if it's chock full of fat cat bureaucrats, when the truth is most of them don't even live in this town. Of the 365,000 Commonwealth public servants, more than two-thirds, 255,000, are outside Canberra.
We don't have to adopt all of America's policies.
I got elected on making government better, more efficient and smaller.
The Prime Minister accusing Peter Dutton of copying Donald Trump.
What we need is Australian policy for Australian conditions, because we are unashamedly the best country on earth and we don't need to borrow off anyone else.
Andrew Probyn, 9 News.
Pope Francis has suffered a setback in his battle with double pneumonia. Europe correspondent Hannah Sinclair is in St Peter's Square and joins us now. Hannah, what happened?
Good evening, Alicia. Well, the Vatican says Pope Francis suffered 2 episodes of acute respiratory failure caused by a significant build-up of mucus. Doctors had to perform 2 bronchoscopies to check the Pope's airway and clear it of that mucus. Now, as a result of this latest setback, the 88-year-old has had to be put back on a ventilator to help him breathe. The Pope has now been in hospital for 18 nights battling double pneumonia, and while there have been some improvements to his condition, the Vatican still isn't sharing his prognosis. Alicia.
OK, Hannah Sinclair, thank you. The estranged wife of Essendon Premiership star Ricky Olorenshaw has arrived in a Bali court praying for her freedom. Judges have postponed the 36-year-old sentencing. Neitha Olorenshaw was arrested after Indonesian police raided her Seminyak spa in September, and she was charged with operating an illegal brothel.
What are you hoping?
my freedom, our freedom.
Ricky Olorenshaw has previously told 9 News it's a delicate and complicated situation and denies any wrongdoing or involvement. OK, when Melbourne's 9 News returns, 30k zones gain support as the minister slams the brakes on teen criminals in classrooms.
Home brand overhaul, the new product's up to 40% cheaper than the competition.
Dolly Parton heartbroken following the death of her husband Carl.
Machete-wielding thugs have stormed a Blackrock home, breaking in and stealing car keys, a wallet and a child's piggy bank. 3 people with their faces covered gained access to the house via a garage early this morning. The residents were home at the time. The intruders made off with 2 of their cars.
A proposal to put 30k speed limits on local streets across Victoria has been labelled a nanny state solution by the opposition. But the Allen government has welcomed the idea as a strong road safety measure. State political reporter Heidi Murphy.
Signs like this would be popping up all over Melbourne if Infrastructure Victoria gets its way.
If we bring in 30km/h speeds in our local streets, that will make them safer for everybody.
And the minister is sounding open to it.
I welcome the recommendation,
pointing out they are spreading already.
We've got trials in 3 different council areas at the moment. We're in active conversations with more than a dozen councils.
But whether it will be backed by Victorians...
I don't think that's a sensible discussion. In fact, I think it's somewhat of a nanny state solution.
It's safer for pedestrians, for cyclists and for drivers.
The opposition arguing lower limits should only be in high-risk areas.
I don't think Victorians want or would accept 30k speed limits right across the state.
It's just one of 43 recommendations laid out in a draft 30-year blueprint from the Infrastructure Advisory Body. Others include allowing more public use of school grounds, extending the city's tram network further into the middle suburbs, and introducing off-peak public transport fares.
That will mean that lots more people will travel on public transport. It also means that people can save money.
Whether that one could be on the cards too.
Issues you raise will go to a budget matter, and as you well know, the budget will be handed down on Budget Day in May.
And Heidi Murphy joins us now at the desk. Heidi, there's also been a government breakdown over youth offenders in classrooms.
Yeah, that's right, Tom, and it came with a quite remarkable broadside from the Education Minister direct to his own department, declaring the bureaucrats got this wrong with their plans to put the highest risk youth offenders into regular classrooms as part of their electronic monitoring trial. His department was briefing principals, but the first Ben Carroll knew was when he read it in Saturday's paper.
As soon as I learnt the government schools, were in potentially being placed with electronic monitoring, I stepped in and stopped it.
Now, Alicia, Tom, the opposition is calling this a backflip on something that should never have gone this far.
OK, Heidi Murphy, thank you. A Richmond warehouse has gone up in flames, with police now searching for an arsonist they believe is responsible. Firefighters battled the blaze for hours and prevented it from spreading to a nearby shopping centre. Jack Ward has more.
An orange glow lights up the Richmond sky as this warehouse is swallowed by flames. The roof caving in as residents watch the fire grow from their balconies just before 2:30.
It looked like an entire block was ablaze.
There was no slowing the fierce inferno, which appears to be deliberately lit. Crews were on scene within minutes, but it had already taken hold of the empty building.
We just saw it all collapsing and engulfing over, it was so quick, probably in about half an hour.
There was guys cutting down the fence with angle grinders for the trucks to get through. There was chainsaws cutting down trees, getting those out of the way.
At its peak, 80 firefighters battled the blaze with specialist equipment. They were able to stop it spreading to a neighbouring shopping centre and eventually brought it under control after a 2-hour fight. The structure on Doonside Street was already up for demolition to make way for a $900 million development.
It was a fairly significant fire. It was a 4th alarm fire, so there was a lot of resources. We've conducted a primary and a secondary search of the property in the areas that we can that are safe and concluded that there is no persons inside, which is great.
Firefighters have had a presence here throughout the day to monitor for hotspots. The scene has been handed over to detectives who will now try to piece together how this blaze started.
At this stage, we haven't been able to get inside to do a full investigation. That'll be conducted over the next couple of days.
Jack Ward, 9 News.
Firefighters in northern Japan are struggling to control a massive blaze that has devoured more than 5,000 acres of land. Thousands of people have been forced to leave their homes in what's described as the country's biggest forest fire in 30 years.
One man is dead and 4 others have been injured after a stabbing rampage in northern Israel. It's understood the accused began attacking civilians with a knife after getting off a bus before a security guard shot him dead. Officers are describing it as a terrorist attack.
Dolly Parton's husband of almost 60 years has died, aged 82. Carl Dean, who avoided the spotlight for much of their marriage, inspired the singer's timeless hit Jolene. In a statement, Dolly said, "Words can't do justice to the love we shared." OK, Livinia Nixon joins us now with the weather, and we had a lovely day.
Oh, Alicia, we're enjoying very settled and calm conditions at the moment. The city started the day on a low of 12, but the jumper came off mid-morning as the mercury started to creep towards its maximum of 33. So we had a few bonus degrees today. Further north, Tropical Cyclone Alfred has forced the closure of beaches from the Sunshine Coast to southern Gold Coast. Damaging wind gusts up to 120 kilometres an hour are forecast tomorrow, persisting into Thursday. Alfred is expected to cross the coast late Thursday or early Friday. I'll have our forecast later in the bulletin, Alicia and Tom.
Looking forward to it, Livinia. Thank you. Coming up for you, the homeowner taking matters into his own hands, building the Great Wall of Frankston.
First Lady Melania Trump heads to Capitol Hill on a solo mission.
And a week-long wait nearly over for a flock of hardcore Billie Eilish fans.
9 News, brought to you by CommBank Safe, helping protect Aussies from scams and fraud.
Former CFMEU boss John Setka has attacked Anthony Albanese, describing him as weak. Speaking on the Neil Mitchell Asks Why podcast, Setka also accused the Prime Minister of telling lies.
And let me tell you, I wouldn't want to be in the trenches with Albo. If we were in a war, he'd be the last person I'd want in my foxhole with me.
Setka also revealed he would not vote for either Labor or the Coalition at the upcoming federal election.
A multi-millionaire homeowner has been slammed by his neighbours after trying to build a huge retaining wall on Frankston Beach without a permit. Mimi Becker tells us he's been ordered to stop work immediately and is now considering selling his property.
It's a seawall stalemate that's fired up Frankston.
We're pretty much the only house here without a seawall. Everyone else here's got protection besides us.
Jean Neal bought the $9 million property along Frankston South Foreshore in December last year. And by February, he'd already started building the seawall without approval.
My understanding is we can't get a permit, so it's a matter of I just have to do it. I have to protect our home, and that's what we're doing.
But the local member, Paul Edbrook, says since Friday his office has had more than 50 complaints. With concerns raised, vegetation has been removed from Crown land.
We will not stand for this. People can not just move into our area and in 3 months destroy some of the most beautiful habitat in Frankston.
Officers from Frankston City Council have visited the site and officially ordered works to halt. But when you talk to locals, they're divided.
Considering it's public land and all that sort of stuff, so it's not something you think you'd get away with without people noticing.
If the council's not going to do anything, then people will.
Before the stop work order, Mr Neal had justified pushing on with construction because he says everyone's walls along the foreshore are illegal, including the ones exactly next door.
I'm prepared to rip it all up and let nature do its thing and have more landslides until it reaches the house.
The council has warned if the stop work order is breached, it will be forced to consider legal action, while Jean hopes to come to a resolution. Mimi Becker, 9 News.
Germany has been stunned by the deaths of 2 people after a car rammed into a crowd in a town in the country's south. The vehicle was filmed driving down a pedestrian shopping area moments earlier. This is the 3rd incident of its kind in recent months. This time, 11 victims were injured. A 40-year-old man is now in custody.
2 former FIFA bosses have faced a Swiss court in a new trial over fraud and forgery. The case against Sepp Blatter and Michel Platini relates to a payment of $3.5 million made to Platini 3 years after they were originally acquitted. Both men have denied any wrongdoing.
America's First Lady has spoken on Capitol Hill for the first time since her husband's re-election. Melania Trump took part in a roundtable discussion of a bill which would make it a federal crime to publish or threaten to publish non-consensual intimate images.
The widespread presence of abusive behaviour in the digital domain affects the daily lives of our children.
The Take It Down Act would require social media companies to remove such content within 48 hours of notice from the victim.
Die-hard superfans of pop star Billie Eilish have camped at Melbourne Park for days ahead of her first Melbourne show tonight. Laura Turner is with them outside Rod Laver Arena. Laura, the wait is almost over.
Do you remember lining up for concerts, Tom? Because I certainly don't. It's been that long, but here we are. The fans are very passionately waiting for Billie Eilish. She has been on this tour for months, but she's now finally here in Melbourne. As you mentioned, they have been camped out here in tents, waiting in line to get as close to her as they possibly can for days.
We've been here for 6 nights so far and we're so excited. All of our group have been staying up. We've been doing shifts through the night to hand out the wristbands, not really sleeping, but it'll be worth it.
I have a stove. I've been cooking. Like, there's Uber Eats, you just put your pod number in and they bring it to you on a bike.
I'm here for Saturday night, so that's 6 nights that I'll be here.
Now, she's already been in Sydney and it starts in Melbourne tonight, of course, then moves around Australia. This is the Hit Me Hard and Soft tour. They're very excited. Doors open at 7 p.m. My favourite song would be Bad Guy, I think. Tom, what's yours?
Yeah, I'm going to pull a Tony Jones here and say
Birds
I've got no idea about these ones. But anyway, thank you, Laura. What about that commitment?
That's unbelievable. That beats the AFL Grand Final for camping out, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
Made of tough stuff. Well done. All right, still ahead in the news for you, how switching to new and improved supermarket home brands can save you as much as 40%.
The popular Hyundai model recalled because of a problem with its brakes.
And 2 of our women's tennis heroes immortalised as Barbie dolls.
The cost of living has forced many families to turn to generic supermarket brands, and the big players are taking note. They've launched a new generation of products that's helping shoppers save hundreds at the checkout. Michelle Tapper explains.
Home brands are getting a glow up. Fancy packaging, improved quality and hundreds of new products released each month.
We're really focusing on what customers are saying to us and we're getting in the kitchen and designing exactly what they want.
With shoppers demanding lower prices, Coles and Woolies are expanding their home brand ranges, which now account for a third of all products on their shelves.
Consumers can save between 10 to 40%.
Experts say investing in their own brands is the only way for supermarkets to increase profits without putting up prices.
Coles and Woolies, they have lost about 5% each of their market share to Aldi.
And just like Aldi, they've also launched their own brand cleaning products, makeup and pharmaceuticals. Cashing in on the air fryer craze, Woolworths have just launched a new range of quick meals, from pizza parcels to curry puffs and kebabs. Flavoured iced teas have also hit the shelves, and a range of beans with no added salt.
We spend a lot of time trying to lower the salt and the sugar and really use natural ingredients to try and add that flavour.
Coles recently released more than 1,100 new products in their own brand range, which includes Coles Simply and Finest ranges.
We're so proud of our cacio e pepe gnocchi. It's our new finest frozen gnocchi from the freezer into your pan and cooked in 7 minutes.
New sweet treats are also on offer just in time for Easter, with a range of deluxe cakes including Black Forest and Red Velvet and Wagon Wheel flavoured hot crust buns.
That awesome biscuit you'd get with that marshmallow and the jam, we've turned that into a hot cross bun.
By making their own products, the big supermarkets have more control over production and distribution, which increases efficiency to reduce costs and improve profits. But it makes it difficult for smaller suppliers to compete, with many at risk of going out of business. And it's a tightly kept secret that many home brand products are made by suppliers of top brands. So you're getting a similar quality for about a third of the price.
The quality is really good. I don't have any problems with the quality. The stigma of buying black and gold or, that home brand, it's not the same anymore.
Michelle Tapper, 9 News.
The minutes of last month's Reserve Bank meeting reveal another rate cut could be some time away as our local markets suffered jitters from ongoing tariff talk in the United States. Here's our money editor, Effie Zahos.
Today we got an inside look into the Reserve Bank's thinking when it decided to cut rates last month. They make it clear it was a line ball call, and they're still worried inflation's not all the way back in the bottle. New retail trade figures showing we're spending again, especially on cafes, restaurants and takeaway, which won't help those wanting another quick cut. And our market went backwards across the board, but it could have been worse. Energy stocks suffered after OPEC announced it would boost supply, sending the oil price lower. But the Lottery Corporation was up. Maybe investors thought they were best off buying a lotto ticket. Aussie dollar down against all major currencies.
Hyundai has recalled almost 9,000 of its vehicles over a manufacturing defect that could lead to a fire. A notice was issued today for iX35 models made between 2012 and 2013. It's feared brake fluid could leak into the anti-lock braking system, leading to an electrical short circuit and subsequent fire. Vehicle owners are urged to contact their Hyundai dealer to have the defect fixed free of charge. The Royal Children's Hospital will try to beat its $23 million record in this year's Good Friday appeal. 6-year-old Jack and 3-year-old Mimi are the new faces of the fundraiser, each with a brave story to tell. Laura Turner met them.
When Mimi Absey started losing her hair, her mum was initially told it was alopecia. What was really going on was life-threatening. At just 1 year old, Mimi was suffering leukemia.
I felt like my heart really broke. Words can't describe what I was feeling. It was like a nightmare. Because I lost my dad from a brain tumour.
The little girl endured months of intensive treatment, made more difficult by the fact she couldn't tell her parents how she felt.
It was really, really hard seeing her in lots of pain from the chemotherapy, seeing her not able to tell me Mimi, what's wrong with you? She can't respond.
She and 6-year-old Jack share a rare bond, both of them owing their lives to the Royal Children's Hospital. Jack started having seizures at 14 months old. Not long after, he was told he needed surgery to remove a brain tumour. His parents forever grateful for how they were all treated.
The doctor, the staff delivering the meals, the nurses, the cleaners, they would all come in, make sure Jack was comfortable, greet Jack by name, and it just made us feel like we were in that home environment.
Last year, the Good Friday appeal raised more than $23 million.
Every year, the aim is to raise more than the last. In a cost of living crisis, though, they know this year it is a big ask.
We know it's incredibly tough for people at the moment, but what we see every year with the Good Friday appeal, people rally around it, they dig deep and they give what they can.
Laura Turner, 9 News.
Yvonne Goolagong-Cawley and Ash Barty, two of Australia's best tennis players, have been immortalised as one-of-a-kind Barbie dolls. The honour was bestowed ahead of International Women's Day this Sunday, with Mattel recognising the power of female friendships. The Wimbledon legends share a special bond representing First Nations Australians in the sport.
All right, it's time to head back to Sydney now, and Tony Jones with all our sport.
Good on you, Tom. Good on you, Alicia. Yes, hello again at the AFL season launch, where you can see the football luminaries just making their way inside for what will be an hour presentation. The flag will be officially handed over to the Brisbane Lions, but of course the Lions have had bigger things on their minds today, along with the AFL. In fact, there's been a few clubs affected by Cyclone Alfred. We'll catch up with the Essendon president after the break. Tom Morris will also be joining us live. Also coming up tonight, the Magpies put a line through to Goey, while a door, of all things, has forced Jesse to the sidelines. A rude shock for Victorian clubs as all 18 captains pick their premier.
And I'm live from John Cain Arena as Melbourne United take aim at the NBL playoffs.
Welcome back to the AFL season launch here at Luna Park in Sydney. As I mentioned earlier, the dignitaries have now gone inside for a few formalities. Tom Morris, our chief football reporter, joins me. We know those matches have now been postponed, but what are the scenarios?
Well, the main scenario for Brisbane and Geelong, TJ, is that game is round 3. That's easy. Both teams have a bye. It looks like the AFL will confirm that in the next 24 to 48 hours. The hard one is Gold Coast versus Essendon. This will be played later on in the year. It's just where it wedges in the fixture and how many other clubs are impacted by that. The AFL is working overtime to get to a solution. At the moment, the Suns and the Dons are none the wiser.
Well, you mentioned the Dons. A little earlier we caught up with Essendon President David Barham. Your thoughts on the decision?
Oh, I think it's the right decision. I think people always come first, and I don't think anyone wanted to fly into a Category 2 cyclone and play a game of footy.
Have you got a preference for when that game will be played?
No, not really. We've got some options, but it's got to be worked through, and it's going to impact not just us, but a lot of clubs, really, because it's got to be slotted into the schedule somewhere.
Well, as you'll see, these pictures, there are a number of CEOs here, a number of club presidents here, a lot of AFL officials, and it's been, well, the AFL's been working out what to do with Queensland. The club CEOs and presidents have been meeting as well.
They have. Gil McLachlan's here as well, which is interesting, TJ. Yeah, the CEOs and the presidents had a meeting this afternoon with the AFL. A number of topics were discussed. It was pretty line and length, but Tasmania was the main one. The AFL reaffirmed to the presidents and the CEOs, no stadium, no team. They did concede they're a couple of months behind. What happens in Parliament later this year will be crucial, and they still expect to have a team in the AFL in 2028, and nothing is deterring them from that. And the presidents and CEOs are warming to that, but they hope that it's financially viable, which of course is the big question.
I wonder where the AFL season launch will be in 2028.
Launceston on a hope, or maybe Devonport, who knows?
Yeah, Devonport. Hey, down at Cardinia Park, even before that announcement was made today by the AFL, it was business as usual for the Cats. But, as Clint Stanaway tells us, there was one notable absentee from training.
An almost full complement of Cats, but no Bailey Smith. The gun recruit instead training indoors away from prying eyes.
Bailey's absolutely ready to go. He's going to have an impact for us. One way or another, it's going to be good fun.
The Geelong coach looks ready and raring for his 15th year in charge, and there'll be some tweaks. Sam de Koning among them, who'll play primarily in the ruck.
He's stronger, he's in a lot of ways much more physically prepared than he has been for previous seasons.
But always one with an eye to the future, the prospect of snaring Matt Rowell still looms large, although it's clear this could become a game of cat and mouse as the season drags on.
Is he one of the best under-23 midfielders in the comp? Yeah, I'd have him in that group.
The Lions have a flag to defend, and Chris Fagan is adopting a well-worn mantra heading into the season proper.
You can't look back in this game. Everybody's trying to get better.
While he admits they'll double down on most aspects of their game, he's hell-bent on getting a flying start after playing catch-up last season at 0-3.
To be honest with you, I can never quite put my finger on why you start well in a season and why you don't.
The Pies will be without Jordan Ngoe on Sunday, ruled out with knee bruising, but a sore Braden Maynard will play. A double blow for the Giants. Jesse Hogan has broken his thumb, apparently after jamming it in a door. He'll be out until at least round 2. They're also bracing for life without Jake Stringer. A dodgy hammy means he'll miss Sunday's battle with Collingwood and likely the round 1 clash with Melbourne too. The annual captain survey, it always makes for some pretty interesting reading. This year is no exception. 9 of the 18 skippers, as you'll see here, believe it is Brisbane's to lose in 2025, while 8 are tipping a maiden flag for GWS. When it comes to the Brownlow medal, how about this? No surprises, Nick Dacos is all the rage. Well clear in the end of Marcus Bontempelli. There are some obscure questions asked as well, Tony, like what would you be if you weren't a footballer? The responses, among them a fireman, there was a professional surfer and a Kentucky tour operator, but no sport presenter. Tony?
No, although they do tend to queue up in their retirement, don't they? And a fireman, geez, the last footballer that embarked on a fireman career didn't last very long. Who could that be? Let's move on now. Thanks for that, Clint. And over at John Caner Arena tonight, back in Melbourne, a raucous crowd will be willing Melbourne United to victory in their quest to make it through to the grand final. Trent Neese is there, front and centre, and the equation's pretty simple, Trent.
It is, Tony. Good evening to you. Should Melbourne United win tonight, they are through to the NBL Grand Final Series. But should they lose, well, it's season 2025 all but over. So in its simplest form, it's a do-or-die game here for Melbourne United at John Caner Arena tonight. They'll, of course, be taking on the Perth Wildcats in Game 3 of the semi-finals, with the series currently locked at 1 apiece. History, though, is on United's side tonight. They, in their last 5 head-to-head matchups against Perth, Melbourne has only lost to one, and earlier on I caught up with Dean Vickerman ahead of tonight's series decider.
Game 3, you do the right thing through the home and away season to get this one at home, and Perth fans were magnificent the other night. We're expecting something similar from our fans tonight.
So a mouth-watering clash here at John Cain Arena tonight, Tony, but it's hard not to look ahead to what could happen. Melbourne United, should they win, they are into the grand final series, but tomorrow night, South East Melbourne Phoenix, they're playing for a spot in the finale, so we could be one step closer here tonight, depending on what happens, to an all-Melbourne NBL grand final series.
Now, that would be pretty exciting. Trent Neese there reporting live from John Cain Arena. Well, to cricket now, and a concession from the Aussie skipper ahead of tonight's semi-final of the Champions Trophy. That skipper, of course, being Steve Smith. He's admitted India has a big advantage. Based in Dubai all tournament, the Indians have played all 3 of their matches at the same ground.
India obviously played all their games here, so they've seen what the surface is doing, and India have obviously played really well in their games as well. So it's going to be a good contest. We're looking forward to it.
South Australia make that South Africa, and New Zealand face off in the second semi-final tomorrow. All right, Tom. All right, Alicia, that wraps it up from Luna Park here in Sydney at the AFL season launch, and somewhat appropriate when you consider the past 24 hours has been a roller coaster of emotions for all concerned.
Yes, enjoy the launch. All right, Tony, thank you. Lavinia is with us again now, and is tomorrow going to be another hot day?
Alicia, well, autumn heat is here for the whole week. Even tonight in the city, it isn't expected to drop below 19 degrees as the warm northerlies have set in. But for anyone who doesn't like the heat, there is a cool change on the way. I'll have the timing of that after the break.
Solving the mystery of frozen shoulder.
What I would describe as excruciating pain. And I thought, oh no, here we go again.
An Australian first trial.
Potentially you could change the natural history of this condition.
Can a common drug stop the joint freezing in the first place? 9 News, your news tomorrow at 6.
Hello again. We're experiencing very settled, calm and warm conditions at the moment. After a low of 12 in the city, the mercury got on the move under light winds and warm sunshine, and it was warmer than forecast, getting to a maximum of 33 just after 5 p.m. A few places dipped into single figures this morning. Coldstream dropped to 5, while Epping, Ringwood and Ferny Creek fell to 9. Maximums ranged from 28 at Geelong up to 34 at Tullamarine and Epping. Warrnambool dropped to a chilly low of 4 this morning. Most other places stayed in double digits overnight. Sunny skies pushed maximums to 36 at Mildura, 35 at Swan Hill, and along the Gippsland coast, Sale 25, Orbost 27 and Mallacoota 22. The latest guidance on Tropical Cyclone Alfred predicts it will cross the southeast Queensland coast either late Thursday night or early Friday morning. It's expected to maintain its intensity as it approaches the coast, bringing damaging wind gusts, dangerous storm tides and intense rainfall, which may lead to life-threatening flash flooding. Tomorrow, Brisbane, damaging wind gusts are possible, along with heavy rain, 28 degrees, 27 with showers in Sydney, sunny and 30 for Canberra, Hobart light showers and 26, Adelaide 31. For Victoria, dry, hot and mostly sunny with light to moderate northerly winds, up to 38 at Mildura, 36 at Horsham. Wodonga is forecast to reach 34 degrees, and this trough will switch winds from warm and there will be some reprieve from the heat. Similar conditions tomorrow, but the main difference is our warm night. Moorabbin, for example, isn't expected to drop below 18 degrees. Then sunny skies and temperatures of 34 and 35 through the north. Those places might even be a touch warmer than that. The southerly wind change is expected around 3 p.m. and will knock 8 or 9 degrees off these temperatures in just a few hours, and it could remain humid tomorrow night. Tomorrow, Geelong, a low of 14 degrees, followed by a sunny top of 30. Warm tonight in the city, not dropping below 19 degrees. Then a sunny day, a top of 32 degrees, with the change arriving around 3 p.m. We have a drizzly start to our Thursday, a cloudy and grey top of 25 degrees. Morning cloud clears on Friday for a sunny 29. And for the long-awaited long weekend, Saturday sunny and 33. A possible light shower on Sunday, 28. A light shower on Monday and 25 degrees. And next Tuesday, a top of 25 again. Tomorrow, from a warm overnight minimum of 19, it won't take long to heat up to 32 degrees. An afternoon cool change will move through, dropping temperatures by around 9 degrees. And we're expecting that around 3 p.m. So this time tomorrow, it'll be around 21 degrees.
Difficult sleeping night ahead, though.
Absolutely.
All right, Livinia, thank you. And that is 9 News this Tuesday. Ali is up next with a current affair.
We hope you have a great evening. For now, though, from the team, it's good night.